Hi, my name is Chris Hassett with Maxson Art Studio and Gallery here in Palm Springs. And what you see behind me is a scaled down version of an art installation that we've had here in the gallery since February of this year. As a collaboration between two artists, Debi Grupe and Linda Maxson, I can tell you that it has been visited and enjoyed and commented on and really been an inspiration for hundreds and hundreds of people who've passed through the gallery. It has a fairly long title, A Tale of Survival in the Face of Crushing Inertia. Recently, I had a chance to sit down with the two artists and find out what was in their hearts and minds when they first thought about this as an art project. And I learned that it was on a particular day and a particular news story that really marked the beginning. And now they can tell us about that day.
That day?
That day.
It was many events that coincided to me. So the main event that day was seeing the children in cages at the border. And that was a big discussion we had that morning. And throughout the day, of course, that had an impact on everything we saw. And Debi was working on a piece where she used these tiny little stick pins that were very colorful and was painting them a matte black. And as she went over that transformation of those pins and that event in the morning, it just had such an impact. And another thing about that event is that we both felt really helpless and hopeless. And we left that conversation that morning thinking, what can we do? How can we change anything? And then if you stay in that state of mind, you end up not doing anything because you feel like, what's the use? What difference can I make? And as artists, we can make a difference, and that's what this is.
Yeah, after the conversation, I wasn't really thinking too deeply about it. I was ready to go and do my work, and I ended up going back there, and I'm spray painting all these colorful heads of pins, and I put this black over top of it, and I went, oh, it just felt heavy, like the feeling of the news that we had heard about these children that were being kept in the cages and with a little silver blanket, and I just felt like, this is awful. I can't do anything for these kids. And when I saw that turn into black, I felt like that's what was coming down on the world, really, on the earth. And I just went, I went over to see Linda, and I had this thing with the pins that were all black, and Keith happened to be there too, one of the other artists, Keith Skipton. I went over there and I said, look, I just painted these things. They were this beautiful color, and now they're just, I matte black too, so it just had this more dead quality to it, where a shiny black would have been.
And it was.
And then Linda was impact. Like, and I get shivers just thinking about it, because Linda's reaction was, "What if you made those bigger?" Was I think one of the first things she said, and then I went, "Oh," because I imagined these pins, all color, turning to black on the side of a wall, and when she said bigger, I thought, bigger on the side of the wall. And so throughout talking, we started talking about the larger part of it, and I said, wow, this could be a collaboration we could work on. Even though the abstract work we do usually isn't so, it's never political, ever. And this is one time where we thought we can do it without it being obvious and still have a statement. Like, there's the darkness, that's what all the black and grays represent, coming down on the beautiful, colorful world that we live in with all the different people. Everybody has something to bring to the table, from their different places. That's what's great about melting pots.
And over the months, it was 8 or 9 months that we worked on it. And in the beginning, it was very dark and gloomy for me, a heaviness.
Yeah.
And over those 9 months, you see people coming forth. You see people who are in a position that they can make a difference, and they are questioning all of these things that are happening. And then on a smaller scale, just people in life in general, friends and family who are going through huge obstacles and just confronting things that have happened to them in life, and how strong they are. and how they can persevere. And so for me, it started turning into hope as a piece. And I think it's such a strong piece because
She went home and told Greg right away. She's like, Greg, I got shivers again thinking about it. And she came up with all these other ideas of where to go, what to do with it, about maybe only having so many balls that represented a certain amount of people that we felt were becoming the problem. And it's like, no, it's not really just about them.
Yeah,
you know, with
it's
like
not
the,
just
the
about
cabinet.
that.
It wasn't
Yeah.
about the politicians that are in right now. That has to do with it. That's part of the problem, but it's more the system. And really the world. It's like, how are we letting these people sit on the ground, the cold ground? Children.
Humanity.
It was children. You know, at that time they were speaking about the children, and it's like they're the most helpless. You know.
So.
Yeah, it was just to get more of a visual, because it seems simple when you look at it, but even the colors of those balls on the bottom, when we worked through pastels, we worked through all black on top or shades of gray on top. So that I use Photoshop as a tool a lot of times, and that was the first little
Iteration.
drawing sketches,
Yeah.
if you want to call them.
And they were beautiful.
Yeah.
It looked really great when she finally got the color that we thought she kept it simple with the primary colors and a couple of, the green and the light blue.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, so it looked great. We had decided at this point that it was going to be ping pong balls, because I had a bunch of ping pong balls. in
Right,
the
she had some
beer
left
pong.
over, so
Yeah, from some other thing, and it's like,
And it
this
worked
is a good
perfectly.
size.
yeah.
And then we had to spray paint them. Boy, was that fun. I had envisioned it to be large. I said, if we're going to do an installation, I'd like it to say something. So it basically is the size of one of the rooms in here.
Because we actually taped off the floor.
Yes, that's
We
right.
needed walking rooms so that the people could interact with it, but yet if you go even a foot smaller, it's just a little tiny. It doesn't have the presence. So that taped off area, which is Debi taped off area, and it worked out really well. Even though once it was done, I was still shocked. I thought, it's larger than I imagined it in so many ways.
So
Really
we were going to do twice as many. So we had calculated this whole thing to put so many in. We wanted to have some density, but because we didn't really have a visual, we put one little 1 foot square together and did 3 of them, I think. So I did where we could look through them, and it's like, oh my goodness, we only need half of the balls that we ordered.
Right.
Thank goodness, actually, because we would have wanted to use, we would have spray painted.
We would still be
twice as
spray
many.
painting.
And this.
We talked about it a lot, about how we didn't want to steer them in a direction to react. We wanted them to experience it and have their reaction come from their own experiences. And then they can always read what inspired us to make it. But we wanted it to be more
Ambiguous.
yeah.
So that they bring their own take to it.
And that's why we really thought about placing it and being able to have them interact with it, so that they could have that experience.
Yeah, that was really important. And that's why we didn't get too much into the details of it. We really kept it as simple but still beautifully
trying to be
complex.
too
It's
literal
still-
with it.
Yeah, that was it, literal.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't want it to have a real literalness.
Well, I know one for me was Debbie was out of town, and we hadn't done our little 1 foot 1 by 1 maquette yet, and so I tried it, with what we had. We had some acrylic rods, and we had the ping pong balls and spray, and they were in all directions. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
It looked like a fountain.
How can I not?
And I said, "Oh, this is this looks terrible. This isn't saying what we want to say at all. And I sent her a picture, and I can't remember what I said in the text. They look a little chaotic or something, and isn't working. I can't remember. That for me, and because she wasn't here, you know, she couldn't bring me back out of it real quickly. So for that, whatever time period it was like,
She was sitting
I don't
here
know,
suffering
it might
in
not work.
silence.
Suffering in silence, yeah.
But I think part of it was because she was, at that time, we were thinking we were gonna get it made. Like, we didn't think it was still gonna be months down the road.
Right.
So she has it in her head, let's get this done.
Right.
As opposed to, oh, if I have until, you know, I still have 3 more months, there's no hurry.
And
like,
that's
'cause I was
true,
away.
because we had
Yeah.
set a deadline, not really telling anyone else that deadline, but
Yeah.
we had set a deadline. And that's true.
And we just pushed it back. We went, okay, we're not ready yet.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it took so long. That's why the 8 months happened. So Linda sent me these great little pictures, and I went, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. And then I get back. And so this was terrible. This is the first time Linda was mad at me. So she had this beautiful little display just off the side of her studio there, and she had some of the balls were, I think they were on something sticking out, and then some were
they
kept
were
in a
white,
roped area.
white going into color.
Yeah, that was it, white going into the color, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's a neat idea. But I had a different idea, so she wasn't here that day. It was a Monday, and I had another idea, but I didn't have enough of the colors. So I went and grabbed a whole bunch of her colors, and then out of her little maquette that she had off to the side there to put into, I had another idea, so I was putting, and I'm like, I'll be able to replace those blue ones later, or whatever the color was that I needed. And then she came in the morning, and I wasn't there yet. She's always here way before me. I never get here till 11 or 12. And so it came out that she was very upset that I took her balls. I actually thought I'd be able to make it in before she got in to put them back. And she was like, oh, don't you respect the art? And I do. I'm so bad.
A relationship, and you learn to work together, and you
Well, I've never collaborated on anything.
No, I haven't either. I mean, it's a big step, and I approach anything like that with caution, because even though you know someone really well, you don't know if you're going to work together well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
we did pretty good.
Really good. Well, for me, I just love to stand back and watch them interact with it and have their moment. And to me, and they came up with different ideas. They came up with photographing it behind this fogged glass, and where the shadows were hitting, and we're having fun doing that. Looking through the center of it, there's a void in the center when you get to a certain height, and they're peeking through that and taking pictures. And I don't know, it was just a great night. It felt good.
It was. It just felt good during the day getting ready too. So I was really happy with the piece. So it didn't even matter if somebody was going to tear it down. It's like, I know in my heart that this feels really good. Mm-hmm. It's done. And it turned out better than we expected. Well, than I expected. The lighting, as soon as we turned the lights on and got it all set with the lights, the way that it hit all of these lines as well, there's this beautiful shimmer of light and all these things you don't expect. Stunning. And then we have this frosted wall, which you can't see, but she's, like Linda said, they were taking pictures from behind it, which we'd seen the balls hanging, but we didn't see people become part of that silhouette until the opening night. Right. And then we went, oh my goodness, look at the people were dancing and taking little videos of it and posing and doing crazy stuff on that wall. And it's just, that was an added bonus. And the sun, when the sun comes down, how it hits that.
Mm-hmm. I think we first planned on, it was even less than a month, I think.
Well, in my head, I was hoping for a month, but then it was, because of the time kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, then I don't know how we came up with it, but it got pushed down to it was going to be 2 weeks. Or 3 weeks? 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I would hope that it was some place where the public can see it and people can still enjoy it. It could go in a private collection, but it would be nice if it just continued to inspire and impact.
Maybe a
people.
private buyer could buy it and have it in their place and then donate it. That could be a
That
thing where
happens too.
it becomes part of a museum somewhere.
It,
Yeah, the logistics of having to make it larger. We wouldn't really want to go smaller because it wouldn't have that impact. We never talk smaller. It's always about it being bigger.
Although you still have some pins left. We could.
I know. I don't feel like it has, but I always think everything affects me. So I never know what affects me until maybe later on. And then maybe it becomes obvious, and maybe not. Or I'll go, oh. But I never really feel anything ever affects me yet. I know everything does.
gotcha.
I just know it. How can it not?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Linda, how about for you? Is it?
For me, it might have been more things that happened during the process of, making a change in the way we look at it and how it could be interpreted, and the slightest little manipulation of something could change the whole piece. So that part of it, which I had never worked on that scale before, so I really think that part of it, even when I'm doing a painting now, it's more, you do approach things a little slower, step back and look longer. And I feel like that was a change for me. I would do something with Debi for sure. Other people, I don't know.
We've got a track record.
You know, I think what would be important, what didn't happen in this one, was when we started to put it together, we sort of knew how it was going to go together, but we never wrote anything down or had a concrete plan.
Right.
That would be the one thing I think we'd try to figure
I
out,
agree.
okay, this is step one, step two, because we were getting frustrated, I'd get frustrated,
Right.
she'd be okay, and then she'd be frustrated, and I'd be okay.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm just going to go away, you do this.
Yeah.
You know? Because we didn't actually have it planned out. It's like, oh, my dad's here. He's going to help poke in some of these rods. And her son and daughter-in-law were
Yeah.
here. We got them throwing balls on things. We didn't have, it was just fly by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
It worked out really
It
well.
really did,
Really
considering
well.
that. But for something the next time to add that aspect of planning it to it, I mean, it would be even better.
It would help. And Greg was so helpful that way, her husband,
Yeah.
Greg Maxson.
I was gonna say, he'll
He
just
was
facilitate
so, yeah.
It's good to have an engineer on the team.
Yeah.
In this case, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause there's
Well, individually, we hear a lot of great things. I mean, from the point where they will sit for 10, 15 minutes and really look at it and feel how it impacts their lives. I had a couple sit in here, and he went through so many different interpretations of it that I hadn't even thought of, and that made me feel great that he took the time to do that. And I find that they've come in before, and I'll come around the corner and say a little bit about it and say, but I'll leave you alone with it. And they'll say, thank you. You know, it's like, I really want to just be here in silence and experience it. So we've heard a few things.
It does have a meditative quality.
It does.
That's one thing that the people do like. That we do have a little sign that tells you to not have your cell phone on and be quiet, but people kind of naturally, I think, do it. Unless there's a group of chatty people, you know. Otherwise, even then, they'll take a moment. It seems like they do simmer down. You know.
One of our customers, her daughter is a school teacher, high school in New York. And they're actually using this as a project to study. And the kids are even coming up with different interpretations of it. Because as we post pictures and other people post pictures on Instagram and Facebook, which they're, you know, always out there looking at, they saw the faces looking through the void here. So
yeah.
they have the dark ping pong balls that above them and this color below them. And they started thinking about the people who are looking through that. And they're all very happy at that moment, but what's going on in their lives? And is that part of them right now? Some of them could be facing things that we don't even know about. But at that moment, they're so happy.
Oh, that's so well put. I love that.
And the children, the high schoolers came up with this.
I'm just really pleased at the way it all turned out. It was pretty smooth. 2, 3 little bumps. Otherwise, I don't know. This pretty much speaks for itself.
It does. It does.
It really has its own life.
And even though it's a little noisy, while you guys are still sitting there, I'm going to turn the fans on so people can see
People
it.
want to always jump in. That's a major thing. There they are.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
Thank you again.
Always a pleasure.